Hello, everybody, and welcome to another update from my classic USFL franchise with the New Orleans Breakers. We're now in week 13 of the 2025 season, and if you've been following along on my channel, during the live streams, it's continuing to be a struggle for the Breakers. We are now 4-7 here in week 13, and the team has just been struggling in many areas. We've had injuries on the interior offensive line that hasn't helped the offense. Defense has been surprisingly struggling, giving up big plays. And all of that leads to a 4-7 record so far on the year. And we're running out of time to make the playoffs. There's only 6 games left, and we pretty much have to win all of them to have a shot at the playoffs. So it's going to be tough. Some news, if you've been following, in case you haven't been following the team, it did end up benching C.J. Stroud last game, as I think the offense needed a spark, and I think there's been a couple of crucial situations where Stroud just didn't want to get rid of the football and been taking a lot of sacks in crucial times of the football games. And so I started Bailey Zapp last game, and he actually did pretty well. He did have one costly turnover, but he was able to bring the team back on a drive at the end of the game to score a touchdown and beat our rival Shreveport Pirates. And so we're going to give him another shot to start, especially since we have a quarterback breakout scenario where you could potentially gain some star development, a star development tier. So he's definitely going to get at least one more week to start, and that's going to help us make a decision of where we're going to go for the future in terms of the quarterback position. Taking a quick look at our schedule, as I mentioned, if you didn't follow the live stream, we did win last week 31-26 over the Pirates, breaking a 3-game losing streak by the Breakers where we lost 3 consecutive games on the road. Some pretty tough teams that we lost to, the Outlaws and the Stallions especially. We did lose by 1 point to the Pirates in Shreveport. We do have 6 games remaining. As I mentioned, 4 of them are at home, but there's some pretty tough teams remaining. Even this week where we play at Philadelphia, the Stars, just like us, have struggled much of the season, surprisingly, but they've been playing way better than a 4-7 team as of late. We also have the Chicago Blitz, who have had a pretty good season so far, and the Oakland Invaders, I think, have the second best record in the conference. And then we have the Stallions, who are leading our division. We have them at home at least, and we have the Los Angeles Express, and then we have the Orlando Renegades to finish out the year. Another team with a somewhat good season so far. Just taking a look at some of the team stats for the Breakers so far this year, you can see why we've been struggling. We're definitely not struggling getting passing yardage. We're 5th in the USFL in passing yardage per game, but it's not equating to points scored, as we're 25th in the USFL in points scored, averaging 20 points a game. Defensively, we're giving up 26.3 points per game. That's 28th in the USFL. And we're giving up a lot of passing yardage on defense as well, which is kind of a surprise. Giving up 247 yards a game just isn't going to cut it. And so that kind of gives you a glimpse of why we've been struggling so far. If we look at some of the stats, if you look on paper, Stroud isn't struggling too bad. He's 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, though you would like to see more touchdowns. He has only thrown 5 interceptions, 63% completion percentage. I'd like to see that a little bit higher, but he has given up 26 sacks. And you can see here the one game Bailey Zapp started last week. He actually went 32 of 44 for 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 72% completion percentage. Not bad for coming off the bench and being a third-year player. Running game, we acquired Tyler Algier in the offseason. He's been averaging 3.9 a carry. Like to see that a little bit higher. Eckler, he's doing pretty good. He coming off the bench. He does get a decent amount of carries for being that second-tier running back on the team. He's averaging almost 5 yards a carry. Receiving units been struggling. Brian Thomas Jr. has been the lone bright spot on the group, in my opinion. He has 51 catches. He has 8 touchdowns. But a big drop-off after that. Chris Olave, often injured, even though he has 42 receptions, but he only has 3 touchdowns. Jawan Johnson, we've traditionally, last season we relied upon him offensively for a good part of the season, but he's been hurt at least 3 games this year. So his reception numbers are down as well. But I just don't feel like we're getting a lot out of this group, not enough, not nearly enough in order for us to play at a higher level as a team. So take a quick look at the standings around the league. In our division, as I mentioned, we're stuck in a rut at 4-7. The Birmingham Stallions, they're one of the surprises of the league this year. They come out to an 8-3 start, and they would have the number 2 seed in the NFC if the season ended today. Over in the NFC West, you have the Oakland Invaders sitting there at 9-3 with the best record in the NFC. And you have the Oklahoma Outlaws not too far behind them, about a game and a half behind them. Joe Burrow, the starting quarterback for them. We've seen them a couple of times in my live streams. So they're look to be in playoff contention. The Michigan Panthers, not a surprise, leading the NFC North at 8-4. They have a game and a half lead on the Milwaukee Rage and the Chicago Blitz. We do have a game against the Blitz later on this season. And then the San Antonio Gunslingers, a bit of a surprise, leading the NFC East, sitting there at 8-4. They do have a game and a half lead on the Washington Federals. Now, looking at the AFC, what continues, what I think is the storyline of the season so far, you have the London Monarchs with the best record in the USFL sitting there at 9-2. And then you have the defending champion Berlin Thunder, a half game behind them. And what's fascinating about that is the Berlin Thunder started out 1-3. And they've won their last 8 games. So they've been on a tear lately, and that division is going to come down to the wire, I have a feeling. Even the Frankfurt Thunder are sitting there at 7-4 in third place. Have been doing well, pretty well so far this season as well. They have Jaden Daniels as their quarterback, and they're sitting there with the 6th seed so far. So a very competitive division there that's going to come down to the wire. The AFC North is kind of mediocre. You have the Pittsburgh Maulers, who actually tied the Montreal Machine last week, and so hence the 6-5-1 record, which is good enough for a half-game lead on the Ohio Glory, who is sitting there at 6-6. In the AFC West, you have the Portland Prowlers leading that division once again. Not a surprise there. They're sitting there at 8-3. And yeah, the Sacramento Surge and Las Vegas right behind them. Las Vegas starting out the season with a tremendous record, but they've been on a losing streak. And so now they're down to 6-6. No matter what happens for them, it's a big improvement over last year. And then the AFC South, Jacksonville Bulls having a great season. They're at 8-4, and they have a game and a half lead over the Orlando Rage. So still plenty of season left to go before we hit the playoff mark. Six game. Most teams have 6 games remaining. Be sure and like and subscribe on the channel, and you'll get notified when I go live with games during the week. I'm slow simming every single game of this franchise. I'm live streaming about 4 to 6 of them every game week. So plenty of football to watch for the rest of the year. It's going to be an exciting finish, in my opinion. Be sure to stay up to date what's happening in my USFL franchise. I hope you enjoy what I'm presenting to you, and you have a good night.